"Mr. Kingsley, where is your lawyer?" The judge's voice was calm, but it landed like a stone in the silent courtroom. Every camera turned, every journalist leaned forward, and billionaire Michael Kingsley, the man Lagos called untouchable, sat frozen in the front row, his hands locked together so tight his knuckles looked pale. His lead lawyer's seat was empty. Not running late, not stuck in traffic. Empty. Across the aisle, the rival company's legal team sat ready, smiling like they had already won. Their senior lawyer, a tall man with a sharp face named Mr. Grant, stood slowly and adjusted his suit. "Your lordship," he said smoothly, "since the defendant is not properly represented, we are prepared to proceed, and we request judgment today." A wave of whispers spread through the courtroom like smoke. $600 million. He's finished. His lawyer abandoned him. Michael's stomach turned. This case was not just money. It was his company, his name, his entire empire. If he lost today, he would lose contracts, properties, investors, and trust. People would turn their backs. Enemies would laugh. His workers would suffer. And worst of all, he would know he lost because of one simple thing. His lawyer didn't show up. Michael swallowed hard and tried to stand, but his legs felt heavy. "Your lordship," he began, voice shaking, he is on his way." "There must be." The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Kingsley, this is not a market. This is a court of law. I will not delay a case of this magnitude because of excuses." Mr. Grant smiled wider. Michael's heart hammered. He turned his head toward the courtroom entrance one more time, praying to see his lawyer rush in. But nobody came. Just when the judge opened her mouth to speak again, a quiet voice rose from behind the last row of seats. "Your lordship, please, I can represent him." The courtroom gasped. Michael's head snapped back. Everyone turned. And there, standing near the back door, still holding a mop bucket, wearing faded brown work clothes, was the courthouse janitor. A thin man in worn shoes. A man Michael had walked past 100 times without looking twice. His name was Caleb. Caleb's face was calm, but his eyes were serious. Mr. Grant blinked, confused. "What is this?" The judge frowned. "Who are you?" Caleb took a slow step forward. "My name is Caleb Wright, your lordship, and I am a lawyer." The courtroom erupted in loud murmurs. "A lawyer? That's the janitor. No way." Michael stared like he was dreaming, because Caleb, the same man who cleaned Michael's office building at night, was now walking toward the front of the courtroom like he belonged there. Caleb stopped at the center and spoke again, clear and steady. "If you give me permission, I can defend Mr. Kingsley right now." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Young man, this is not comedy. Do you have proof you are a legal practitioner?" Caleb slowly reached into his inner pocket and pulled out a worn, folded document. Michael's breath caught, because Caleb wasn't joking. He was about to show something that could change everything. But before Caleb could hand it over, Mr. Grant's voice cut in sharply. "Your lordship, this is nonsense. A janitor cannot wake up and decide he is a lawyer. We should proceed with judgment." The judge raised her hand again. Silence. She looked at Caleb. "Bring your proof." Caleb stepped forward. The entire courtroom held its breath. And Michael Kingsley realized something terrifying. His entire $600 million future was now resting on the hands of the man he never respected. Hours earlier, the man everyone overlooked, that morning started with panic. Michael Kingsley's mansion in Ikoyi was already loud by 6 a.m. Phones rang, assistants ran, his security team moved like soldiers. Michael stood by the window in a crisp black suit, staring at the Lagos skyline. His personal assistant, Linda, rushed in with a tablet. "Sir," she said, voice shaking, "we can't reach Mr. Hargrove." Michael turned slowly. "What do you mean you can't reach him? This is the biggest case of my life." Linda's hands trembled. "His phone is off. His office says he never arrived this morning." Michael's throat went dry. Mr. Hargrove was his expensive senior lawyer, the best money could buy, the one who promised, "You will win this case easily." Michael grabbed his phone and dialed again. No answer. He dialed again. Still nothing. Michael's best friend Henry walked in, eyes worried. "Michael, don't tell me Hargrove is missing." Michael didn't answer. He just kept dialing. Linda swallowed. "Sir, the press is already at the courthouse. Your rivals are there too." Michael felt heat rise to his face. This case was about a major deal, an international oil and logistics contract worth in 600 million dadachas. His rivals claimed he stole documents. They said he bribed officials. They said his company was built on fraud, and if the court ruled against him today, the government would freeze his accounts and cancel the contract. His workers, thousands of them, would suffer. Michael hated losing, but he hated embarrassment even more. And right now he could feel embarrassment standing at his door like a thief. He turned to Henry. "Get another lawyer." Henry shook his head quickly. "All the top lawyers are already attached to someone today. Even if we find one, he won't understand the case files in time." Michael's chest tightened. Linda whispered, "Sir, we should still go. Maybe Mr. Hargrove will meet us there." Michael stared at her. Maybe? He hated maybe, but he had no choice. "Let's move," he said. The quiet janitor in the office before heading to court, Michael insisted on stopping briefly at his company headquarters in Victoria Island. He needed one thing, the full case file and proof documents. The building was quiet early in the morning, but one person was already working, a man pushing a cleaning trolley down the hallway. Caleb. Michael barely noticed him at first. Caleb's uniform was simple, brown shirt, brown trousers. His hands looked rough, his shoes were worn. He was mopping near the elevator when Michael stepped out with Linda and Henry. Linda waved her hand like Caleb was in the way. "Please move." Caleb moved immediately, head lowered. "Sorry, Ma." Michael didn't say anything. He walked past, but Caleb paused and looked up for a moment. His eyes met Michael's. And Michael saw something strange there, something he couldn't name. Not fear, not jealousy. More like understanding, as if Caleb already knew what kind of day Michael was about to have. Michael entered his office and started pulling documents out of drawers. His hands shook as he flipped through papers. Henry muttered, "This is bad. Hargrove has never disappeared like this before." Michael snapped, "Stop talking about him like he's a spirit. Find him." Linda rushed out to call again. Michael turned and saw Caleb through the glass wall of his office, still cleaning. And for some reason, Michael felt irritated. Why is that janitor so calm? Michael stormed out and barked, "Hey, you!" Caleb looked up quickly. "Yes, sir." Michael frowned. "Don't you have somewhere else to clean? This is not the day to be slow." Caleb nodded respectfully. "Yes, sir, I'm done here." He began to push his trolley away. Then Caleb spoke softly, almost like he wasn't sure he should say it. "Sir, court days can be unpredictable." Michael paused. "What did you say?" Caleb hesitated, then said, "Nothing, sir." Michael stared at him, annoyed. "Just do your work." Caleb nodded again and left. Michael didn't know it yet, but that small moment was a warning. Because Caleb wasn't just a janitor, and he wasn't calm for no reason. Back to the courtroom. The paper in Caleb's hand. Now, in court, Caleb held out the folded document. The judge leaned forward slightly. Mr. Grant's face tightened. Michael's heart pounded like a drum. Caleb unfolded the paper carefully, and at the top, the judge read the words that made the whole courtroom go quiet. Supreme Court of Nigeria, role of legal practitioners. Michael's mouth fell open. Because it was real. Caleb Wright was not bluffing. The judge's eyes moved from the document to Caleb's face. Then she asked the question that made Michael's stomach twist even more. "Mr. Wright, if you are truly a lawyer, why are you dressed like a janitor?" Caleb looked toward Michael, and Michael suddenly felt like the room had turned its spotlight on him. Caleb opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, the courtroom doors burst open. A man stumbled in, sweating, hair messy, suit rumpled. It was Mr. Hargrove, and he shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Your Lordship, I'm here. I can explain." Michael's blood ran cold, because Hargrove's face didn't look like a man delayed by traffic. It looked like a man who had been running from something. The judge stared at Hargrove, then stared back at Caleb, and said slowly, "Only one of you will represent Mr. Kingsley today." Michael's eyes widened. because he had no idea which choice would save him and which choice would destroy him. The courtroom was silent, too silent. Even the cameras stopped clicking. Judge Adebayo sat back in her chair, her sharp eyes moving slowly from Mr. Hargrove, the expensive senior lawyer standing breathless near the door, to Caleb, the janitor-turned-lawyer standing calmly beside the defense table. Then she spoke again, slow and firm. "Mr. Kingsley," she said, "this court will not tolerate confusion. You will choose one legal representative. Now." Michael's chest tightened. This was it. $600 million. His entire company, his future, all hanging on one decision. He looked at Mr. Hargrove first. The man adjusted his tie nervously. Sweat ran down his temple. His eyes kept darting around the courtroom, avoiding direct eye contact. "Michael," Hargrove whispered urgently, stepping closer, "don't listen to this madness. I've handled your case from day one. This janitor stunt is just drama. Choose me and we'll finish this." Michael opened his mouth to respond, but then he looked at Caleb. Caleb stood straight. No panic, no begging, just calm. His worn shoes were dusty, his clothes were plain, but his eyes were steady, like a man who had already thought through every outcome. Michael's mind raced. Why did Hargrove disappear? Why does Caleb look so sure? Why did the janitor warn me this morning? The judge's voice cut in again. "Mr. Kingsley, time." Michael swallowed. He remembered something small but strange. Every night he worked late, Caleb was always there, quietly cleaning his office. Never distracted, never gossiping. Sometimes Michael noticed law books on the janitor's cart, hidden under cleaning supplies. He had laughed it off. Probably someone else's, he told himself back then. Now his heart pounded. "Michael," Hargrove hissed again, louder this time, "you're making a mistake even thinking about this." Michael turned slowly to Caleb. Caleb met his eyes and spoke softly but clearly. "Sir, I will not beg you. But if you allow me, I will tell the truth today, and the truth will protect you." Something in that sentence landed deep in Michael's chest. Truth. Michael exhaled. Then he spoke. "Your lordship," he said, voice steady but low. "I choose Caleb Wright." The courtroom exploded. "What? Is he serious?" "He picked the janitor." Mr. Hargrove froze like stone. "What?" he shouted. "Michael, have you lost your mind?" Judge Adebayo raised her gavel sharply. "Order?" She turned to Hargrove. "You are dismissed from this case." Hargrove's face twisted in anger and fear. "You'll regret this," he snapped at Michael before storming out. Michael sat down slowly. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. Caleb stepped forward and adjusted the chair beside him. "Thank you," Caleb said quietly. Michael whispered back, "Please don't fail me." Caleb nodded once. "I won't." The prosecution wasted no time. Mr. Grant stood up smoothly, his confidence filling the room. "Your lordship," he began, "this case is simple. Mr. Kingsley stole confidential documents, bribed officials, and built his empire on lies. We have witnesses, emails, and records." A large screen behind him lit up. Emails, contracts, numbers. The crowd murmured again. Michael's stomach dropped. "I've never seen some of these documents," he thought. Mr. Grant smiled slightly. "We ask this court to rule immediately and seize the $600 million contract." Judge Adebayo nodded and turned to Caleb. "Defense," she said. "You may respond." Caleb stood. The room went quiet again. People leaned forward, curious. The janitor cleared his throat once. "Your lordship," Caleb began calmly, "before I respond, I request permission to ask the prosecution one question." Mr. Grant raised an eyebrow. "Permission granted." Caleb walked slowly toward the screen. "Mr. Grant," he said, "these emails you presented, who provided them?" Mr. Grant answered quickly. "They were submitted by Mr. Kingsley's former legal counsel." Michael's head snapped up. "Former legal counsel?" Caleb nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you," he said. Then he turned to the judge. "Your lordship," Caleb continued, "I request the court to check the metadata C of those emails." The judge frowned slightly. "Explain." Caleb spoke clearly, like a teacher. "Metadata shows when a file was created, edited, and by whom. If these emails are genuine, the data will match the timeline. Mr. Grant's confident smile slipped. Just a little. Judge Adebayo nodded. Proceed. A court officer connected the files to the system. Seconds passed. Then murmurs. The courtroom buzzed louder. The officer whispered something to the judge. Judge Adebayo's face hardened. These emails, she said slowly, were created 3 days ago. Gasps filled the room. Mr. Grant stiffened. That must be an error. Caleb spoke again, calm but firm. 3 days ago, he repeated, while this case has been active for months. Michael's heart slammed. Forgery. Caleb continued, Your Lordship, someone recently created these emails to frame my client. Judge Adebayo turned sharply to Mr. Grant. Do you wish to explain this? Mr. Grant swallowed. We received the files in good faith. Caleb didn't stop. And the sender? He asked. The officer checked again. The room went dead silent. Then the officer said, The files were uploaded from a private law office account. Judge Adebayo's eyes narrowed. Whose account? The officer hesitated, then spoke. Hargrove and Associates. Michael felt like the floor moved. His own lawyer. The courtroom erupted in noise. Order! The judge shouted, banging the gavel. Michael's hands trembled. Caleb turned to him briefly and whispered, This is why he was late. Michael's throat went dry. Judge Adebayo leaned forward. Mr. Wright, she said, you seem unusually prepared for someone who just stepped into this case. Caleb nodded respectfully. Yes, Your Lordship, he said, because I have been studying this case quietly for months. The courtroom buzzed again. Michael turned to Caleb, stunned. You knew, he whispered. Caleb didn't look away from the judge. I cleaned his office every night, Caleb continued aloud. I saw the files, the notes, the gaps, and the lies. Mr. Grant scoffed. So you admit you invaded confidential documents? Caleb shook his head. No, I cleaned around them, but lies leave patterns. The judge studied him. Why were you working as a janitor if you are a lawyer? She asked again. Caleb paused. His voice softened. Because I once trusted the wrong people too, he said. And I lost everything. Michael felt a chill. Caleb wasn't finished. But today, Caleb said, lifting his head, I choose to stand for the truth. Judge Adebayo nodded slowly. Continue, she said. Caleb took a deep breath. Your Lordship, this case is not about Mr. Kingsley stealing documents. It is about who wanted him to lose this contract. The courtroom leaned in. Caleb turned and pointed gently toward the prosecution's table. And I believe the answer is sitting right here. Mr. Grant's face went pale. Michael's heart pounded. Because this case was no longer just a defense, it was turning into an exposure. Just as Caleb opened his mouth to name names, a court officer rushed in and whispered urgently to the judge. Judge Adebayo's eyes widened. She looked up and said, Court will recess for 10 minutes. There has been an unexpected development. Michael's pulse raced, because whatever that development was, it sounded dangerous. The courtroom buzzed the moment the judge stood up. People whispered. Phones came out. Journalists rushed into the hallway. Michael Kingsley remained seated, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. 10 minutes ago, he thought his life was over. Now the case had turned into something darker and far more dangerous. He turned to Caleb. What just happened? Michael whispered. Caleb didn't answer right away. His eyes followed the judge as she disappeared through the side door. That whisper, Michael pressed. What did they tell her? Caleb's jaw tightened. If I'm right, he said quietly, someone just realized the truth is coming out, and they are trying to stop it. Michael felt cold. In the hallway, Mr. Grant paced back and forth, speaking fast into his phone. This wasn't part of the plan, he hissed. Hargrove messed it up. He stopped walking, listening. No, don't panic. We still have time. He lowered his voice. If the judge sees the bank records, we're finished. Grant hung up and wiped sweat from his face. Across the hallway, Michael watched him. Caleb, Michael whispered, that man is scared. Yes, Caleb replied, because fear comes when lies start falling apart. Michael studied Caleb's face. You said you studied this case for months, Michael said. Why? Caleb hesitated. Then he spoke slowly. Because I've seen this before, he said, powerful men using weak people to do their dirty work. And when things go wrong, they destroy anyone in the way. Michael's stomach twisted. Is that what happened to you? He asked. Caleb nodded once. I was a junior lawyer years ago. I exposed a forged contract. My name was dragged through mud. I lost my license. I lost my job. Cleaning floors was the only way to survive. Michael's chest tightened. And you still chose to help me? Michael asked. Caleb looked at him. Because you didn't treat me like dirt. You said good morning when others didn't see me. Michael swallowed. That small habit, something he never thought about, now felt huge. The courtroom doors opened again. Everyone, back inside, a court officer announced. People rushed to their seats. Michael and Caleb returned to the defense table. Judge Adebayo walked in slowly and sat down. Her face was serious, too serious. This court is back in session, she said. The room went silent. She looked directly at Caleb. Mr. Wright, she said, during the recess, I received information that concerns this case. Michael leaned forward. Judge Adebayo continued, a financial audit request was filed late last night by a third party. Mr. Grant stiffened. The audit, the judge went on, reveals irregular transfers connected to the forged emails. Caleb stood immediately. Your Lordship, he said, may I see the report? She nodded. The report was handed over. Caleb scanned it quickly, then his eyes lifted. Michael saw it in his face. This was big. Caleb spoke carefully. Your Lordship, these transfers link directly to a shell company. Mr. Grant jumped to his feet. Objection! Speculation! Judge Adebayo banged the gavel. Sit down. Caleb continued. The shell company made payments to create false evidence and to delay the defense. The judge turned to the screen. Display the account owner. The name appeared. Michael's breath caught. It wasn't Mr. Grant. It wasn't Hargrove. It was someone Michael trusted. Someone powerful. Someone close. Michael whispered, no. The name belonged to Victor Hale, a senior board member of Michael's company, a man who smiled at every meeting, a man who toasted Michael's success at parties. Michael felt dizzy. Caleb spoke again. Calm but firm. Victor Hale benefits if Mr. Kingsley loses this contract, Caleb said. He stands to gain controlling shares. The courtroom exploded. That's impossible. He's family. Victor helped build the company. Michael stood up without thinking. Victor, he said aloud, why would he? Judge Adebayo raised her hand. Mr. Kingsley, sit down, she ordered. This court will handle this. Michael sat slowly, his mind spinning. My own board member. Caleb turned to the judge. Your Lordship, this explains why Mr. Hargrove disappeared. He was pressured, or paid. Mr. Grant shouted, this is all lies. Judge Adebayo looked at him coldly. You are walking a very thin line. The judge leaned forward. Court officer, she said, bring Mr. Hargrove in. The doors opened again. Hargrove was escorted in, this time by security. His face looked grey. Michael's heart pounded. Judge Adebayo fixed her eyes on him. Mr. Hargrove, she said, did you submit false evidence to this court? Hargrove shook his head wildly. No, I mean yes, but I had no choice. The courtroom gasped. Michael felt like he'd been punched. No choice, the judge repeated. Hargrove's voice cracked. Victor Hale threatened me. He said if I didn't cooperate, my past would be exposed. Michael stared. You sold me out, he whispered. Hargrove couldn't meet his eyes. Caleb spoke quietly. What past? Hargrove swallowed. A bribery case from years ago. Victor helped bury it. He owns me. Judge Adebayo exhaled slowly. This court does not tolerate blackmail, she said. She turned to the prosecution. Mr. Grant, she said sharply, were you aware of this scheme? Grant hesitated. Then he said nothing. That silence was loud. Judge Adebayo straightened. This case is no longer a simple contract dispute, she announced. It is now a criminal investigation. Michael's heart pounded, but this time with hope. Caleb placed a steady hand on the table. Your Lordship, he said, I request protection for my client and immediate freezing of Victor Hale's assets. Judge Adebayo nodded. Granted. Michael's eyes filled with tears he didn't expect. We're winning. But Caleb didn't look relieved. He looked worried. Michael noticed. What is it? Michael whispered. Caleb leaned closer. Victor Hale is powerful, he said. This won't end quietly. As if on cue, Michael's phone vibrated. A message, unknown number. He glanced down. The message was short. You chose the wrong janitor. Michael's blood ran cold. He looked up slowly. Across the courtroom, at the back row, Victor Hale had just walked in. And he was smiling. Not nervous, not angry. Smiling, like a man who still believed he was in control. Victor's eyes locked onto Michael's. Then he mouthed 4 silent words. This isn't over yet. Michael felt fear rise again, because now he understood saving $600 million was one thing. But surviving the truth, that was another battle entirely. Victor Hale did not rush. He walked slowly down the aisle like a man who owned the room. His suit was neat. His shoes shined. His face wore the same calm smile Michael had trusted for years. Michael's stomach twisted. How could I miss this? He thought. Victor stopped near the front row and nodded politely at the judge. Your lordship, Victor said smoothly, I was told my name came up in this case. I came to clear things up. Judge Adebayo studied him carefully. Mr. Hale, she said, you are now connected to forged evidence, blackmail, and attempted fraud involving $600 million. Victor spread his hands lightly. Serious words, he replied, but words are not proof. Caleb stood up. Your lordship, he said calmly, we have proof. Bank transfers, shell companies, witness confession. Victor turned his head and looked at Caleb for the first time. Really looked. His smile faded just a little. So you're the janitor, Victor said softly. Caleb met his eyes. And you are the thief. The courtroom gasped. Victor chuckled. Careful, you're speaking to a board member. Caleb didn't flinch. And you're speaking to the law. Judge Adebayo raised her gavel. Enough. She turned to Victor. Mr. Hale, this court orders you to submit all financial records immediately. Failure to comply will result in arrest. Victor bowed slightly. Of course, your lordship. But as he turned away, his eyes flicked toward Michael. Cold. Warning. Michael's phone vibrated in his pocket. He didn't want to look, but he did. A new message, unknown number. Check your gate cameras. Michael's breath caught. He tapped the screen quickly. A live image appeared. His Ikoyi mansion gate, 2 black SUVs, men standing outside, armed. Michael's hands began to shake. Caleb noticed. What is it? He whispered. They're at my house, Michael whispered back. My wife, my children. Caleb's jaw tightened. Victor was still standing nearby. Caleb spoke up immediately. Your lordship, I request emergency protection for Mr. Kingsley and his family. Victor turned back sharply. That's unnecessary. Judge Adebayo's eyes hardened. It is very necessary. She signaled to security. Contact the police unit, now. Victor's smile disappeared. The judge ordered another short recess. Security moved quickly. Michael and Caleb were escorted into a private room. Michael paced. I brought this on them, Michael said, panic rising. If anything happens to my family. Caleb held up a hand. Listen to me, he said firmly. Victor is trying to scare you into silence. Fear is his last weapon. Michael stopped pacing. You sound sure, he said. Caleb nodded. Because powerful people only threaten when they are losing. Michael looked at him, eyes full. Why are you risking your life for me? Caleb answered quietly. Because when everyone else ignored me, you didn't. And because the truth already took enough from me once. Michael swallowed. Before he could respond, a security officer rushed in. Sir, the officer said to Michael, your family has been secured. They are safe. Michael's knees weakened. He sat down hard, breathing out. Thank God, he whispered. Caleb placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Court resumed. Victor now looked tense. Judge Adebayo spoke firmly. Mr. Hale, new evidence has been submitted. Your shell company has been traced directly to payments made to witnesses and lawyers. Victor shook his head. Lies. Caleb stood again. Your lordship, he said, we also have voice recordings. Victor's head snapped up. What recordings? Caleb turned to the screen. A short audio clip played. Victor's voice filled the courtroom. If Kingsley loses this contract, I take control. Do whatever it takes. Silence. Victor's face drained of color. Mr. Grant stood frozen. Judge Adebayo slowly removed her glasses. Mr. Hale, she said, you are under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Victor slammed his hand on the table. This is not over. Security stepped forward immediately. Michael watched, stunned. The man who once toasted him at dinners was now shouting like a trapped animal. Victor was escorted out. Cameras flashed wildly. The courtroom buzzed again, but this time with shock and justice. Michael turned to Caleb. You did it, he whispered. Caleb shook his head. Not yet. Michael frowned. What do you mean? Caleb leaned closer. Victor is only one piece, he said. This kind of crime has helpers, and one of them hasn't spoken yet. Michael's heart skipped. Who? He asked. Caleb looked toward the empty doorway. The witness who disappeared, he said. Before Michael could ask more, a court officer rushed in again, breathless. Your lordship, the officer said, we just received a call. Judge Adebayo straightened. From who? The officer swallowed. From the missing witness. The courtroom went dead silent. Michael's pulse raced, because if that witness spoke, everything would finally be exposed. The judge looked at Caleb and said, Mr. Wright, if this witness appears, this case ends today. Michael held his breath, because the next few minutes would decide everything. Who walks free, who goes to prison, and whether the janitor truly saves the $600 million. The courtroom was silent. Not the quiet of boredom, but the quiet of people holding their breath. Judge Adebayo leaned forward. Bring the witness in. The doors opened slowly. Every head turned. A thin man walked in, guarded by two police officers. His shoulders were slumped. His face looked tired, like someone who had not slept in days. Michael Kingsley's heart skipped. He recognized him immediately. Samuel Okoro, the former finance officer who disappeared 2 weeks ago. The same man the prosecution claimed had run away after exposing Michael's fraud. Samuel took the witness stand and raised his hand to swear the oath. His hand shook. Judge Adebayo spoke gently but firmly. Mr. Okoro, this court has been waiting for you. Speak the truth. Samuel swallowed. He looked around the courtroom, at the cameras, at Victor Hale's empty seat, at Michael. Then his eyes stopped on Caleb, and something changed. He took a deep breath. I did not run away, Samuel said. I was hiding. Gasps filled the room. Hiding from who? The judge asked. Samuel's voice cracked. From Victor Hale. Michael closed his eyes briefly. Samuel continued louder now, as if something inside him had finally broken free. Victor ordered me to sign false reports. When I refused, he threatened my family. When I still refused, he framed Mr. Kingsley and told me to disappear. The courtroom erupted. Judge Adebayo banged the gavel hard. Order! Samuel wiped his face. I was paid to lie, he admitted, but I couldn't live with it. I recorded everything. Caleb stood immediately. Your lordship, he said, we request the witness submit the recordings. Samuel nodded. The recordings were played. Victor's voice, clear, cold, greedy, promises of money, threats of ruin, plans to take over Michael's company once the contract was lost. When the recording ended, the courtroom felt heavy. Judge Adebayo removed her glasses. This court has heard enough, she said. She looked directly at Michael. Mr. Kingsley, this court finds you not guilty of all charges. The room exploded. Cheers, shouts, cameras flashing wildly. Michael felt his knees weaken. $600 million saved, his company saved, his name cleared. But the judge wasn't finished. She raised her hand. And this court orders the immediate arrest of Victor Hale, Mr. Grant, and any accomplices involved in this conspiracy. Applause broke out again as officers moved quickly. Michael sat down slowly, overwhelmed. He turned to Caleb. You did it, he said, voice thick. You saved everything. Caleb shook his head gently. No, he said, the truth did. Michael stood up suddenly and faced the courtroom. Your lordship, he said, before we adjourn. I need to say something. The judge nodded. Michael turned toward Caleb. This man, he said, voice strong, cleaned my office floors every night. I never knew he was a lawyer. I never knew his story. And yet, when my expensive lawyer disappeared, he stood up. Michael's eyes filled with tears. From today, he continued, Caleb Wright is no longer my janitor. He is my chief legal advisor. The courtroom burst into applause again. Caleb stood frozen. Sir, he began. Michael smiled at him. You saved my $600 million, Michael said. You saved my company, and you reminded me of something more important. He turned to the cameras. That greatness doesn't always wear a suit. The courthouse was quiet now. Michael and Caleb stood outside, the sun setting over Lagos. Caleb looked at the building. I never planned to come back to law like this, he said softly. Michael smiled. Life has a way of sweeping dust off buried gifts. Caleb laughed quietly. You know, he said, if your lawyer had not missed trial. Michael finished the sentence. I would have lost everything. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Michael asked, Will you take the job? Caleb nodded slowly. Yes, but on one condition. Michael raised an eyebrow. Name it. Caleb smiled. That no one in your company is ever judged by their uniform again. Michael extended his hand. Deal. They shook hands. As Caleb walked away, a reporter shouted from behind, Mr. Kingsley, any final words? Michael turned back, calm and confident. Yes, he said, always look twice at the people you overlook. One of them might be holding the key to saving your life. If you were the billionaire, would you have trusted the janitor in that moment? Do you believe hidden talents are walking around us every day? Like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories.